Mountain Bike Associated Press, Crestline.
Hello Pinkbike, we're here wrapping up some field test reviews. 2025 Pinkbike e-bike field test, it's a mouthful. And today we're going to talk about the Crestline RS181 Spectre Edition.
This is the big dog on test. It's got 180 mil of travel front and rear. The rear end is adjustable. You can swap it to 160 with just a flip chip, but we ran it as the long travel variant just to keep things interesting. You can have it full 29 or mixed wheel. It has a reach adjust headset and it has adjustable chainstay length, which with a huge range. So very adjustable bike. It runs the Avanox drive system with either a 600 or an 800 watt-hour battery, and we ran it with the 600, making it the lightest bike on test at 48 pounds or 21.8 kilos.
Yeah, and it's worth mentioning also that these are a frame-only option, so there's no complete bike option for this bike. There's also very limited, 99 frames for this first batch.
We got one of them.
We were lucky enough to test one of those. Yeah. So yeah, very limited, kind of like a very boutique-y niche option here that we're talking about.
And in terms of the build kit we had on the bike, we had Crestline select some parts that they thought were best and most representative for this kind of bike. So it's like pretty in line with everything else we tested. Nothing is too unusual there. I think this bike is not what you'd expect based on its on-paper stats.
Yeah, it's definitely a bit of like a chameleon, and you know, on paper you'd think this is a big brute of a descending only kind of machine. Even with the 180 travel in kind of Bentonville, that wasn't, you know, the steepest technical crazy riding. It was still like pretty lively to get around. Obviously a little bit more wallowy, but it's pretty nimble for like what the travel numbers would suggest.
I think the adjustment plays a pretty big role in the experience on this bike. So we kind of normalized around like a long reach position, not the longest, but like a 450 mil chainstay length. And that put us in, I'd say, like a pretty good middle ground. You can make the bike more extreme in terms of making the wheelbase quite long or tucking that rear end really short if you want something that's like super easy to manual, maybe a bit better on jumps.
Yeah.
But I think how we had it was like a really nice balance for the variety of riding we were doing. We were riding like tech, rough stuff, and then going and riding jumps just to like have fun. So a good do-it-all setup.
For sure, and you know, obviously with an e-bike and the big motor, like even that, another thing with the travel is like, you don't really feel it that much when you have a giant motor helping you up the hill.
Yeah.
So yeah, like definitely quite versatile for how like big of travel intentions it could, like it could ride a big variety of, like you could bring it here to Squamish and ride some gnarly stuff, or you can also like still get down on some chiller stuff too.
For sure. I think drilling into the suspension feel a bit, part of the reason it's so like adaptable and fun is the fact that it's maybe not as like dead composed through the roughest stuff. I think other bikes we had on test were a bit better at managing their travel in terms of how like traction, support, and comfort were all balanced. I think the Crestline is a bit more like energetic feeling. It's like quite progressive bike. You can really like ramp off that end of the stroke and get pop out of it. Even though it has a lot of travel, you're still able to like get it off the ground easily and like keep it feeling lively. So it's interesting because we had bikes with a lot less travel on paper that felt just as, if not more, gushy than this.
Yeah, and I mean, one thing to also note is we did have the 600 watt-hour battery, like you said, in this, which makes it the lightest bike we had. And I think another thing with that 600 watt-hour battery, at least on these Avanox systems, is the weight is actually centered down near the motor.
Sure, it's like a shorter tube battery.
It's the same length too, but the cells are down at the bottom.
Right.
So, but what that equates to is more of your weight feeling kind of like in a good spot, sort of like in the center of the bike, near where your feet are, low. The weight's not up at the head tube, which I think with some of the other bikes, you could really tell that weight. If the weight distribution is off and high, it can really affect handling and stuff. But this, with that smaller battery, which obviously can also still take an 800, but with the smaller battery, it does, I think, make it feel the most like a normal bike.
All right, the camera people are asking us about climbing stuff. One, it's a full power e-bike with the Avanox, so super fast and easy. Two, the smaller battery is a little lighter, but the range is worse. Three, it's got pretty good traction, though I would say it's not as like pedal through the bumps as some of the other bikes on test. I think the adjustment plays a pretty big role in the livability of this bike and how easy it will be to make it work for different people in different places.
Yeah, for sure. Like we said earlier, there's a ton of adjustability. I think pretty much anyone could find some sort of configuration in all these permutations and combinations that will work for them. I don't know, I don't think we rode it long enough to talk long-term on like if, you know, sometimes those adjustment points can lead to creaking or wear and tear or whatever. I don't feel like I have enough time on the bike to make a confident assessment, but in our 2-week time with quite a bit of riding, it was very good. And
yeah, and I would say that like the reach adjustment, for instance, is a works headset. Like I have tons of experience with those and they're robust. The chainstay adjustment is a pretty simple bolt-on dropout, so it's not flip chip or anything. It's like a very solid item, so it does bode confidence. You know, I think it's well considered. There's like a flip chip to adjust travel. Otherwise, all the adjustments are a bit more like meaty, if you will. They're not like little fiddly things that you have to worry about.
And yeah, another livability thing with this frame is all the bearings press into the metal links. So bikes like that are just really easy to do services on. No alignment issues, none of that stuff. So
yeah, less to wear out.
Good, nice. Good thoughtful design, I think, overall in the whole bike.
It's a bike that can seem complicated because of all the adjustments, but I would say that they are done effectively and in a way that doesn't compromise any of the long-term lifespan. I think the adjustability is kind of the highlight here. This is a boutique frame with challenging availability. They're limited. So if you get one, you will probably be able to turn it into the bike that you want from a geometry standpoint, especially. You know, the suspension feel, I think, is going to be a mixed bag. It's like very fun, as we mentioned, and maybe a bit more lively than you'd expect of a 180 mil travel bike. And between the adjustments on that front, the adjustments on the geometry front, you can really suit the bike's feel to your preferences.
Yeah, and then for the cons, well, like you mentioned, I think one, it's expensive and hard to get. So, and there's no complete bike option so a lot of people that'll immediately make it not an option. Dropper post insertion, because of the shock tunnel, is a bit smaller than some of the other bikes. So that could be a challenge for taller riders, especially if you're trying to size down and still have a decent sized dropper post. So keep an eye on that. I also found just like deeper in the travel, I started to feel a bit like less stable. So
it kind of like, it moves, it kicks back on you a little bit.
Yeah, so like deep in the travel, I found it was a bit unsettled. So yeah, I'd say those are my 3 cons. Someone who wants a really cool, very boutique and like very flexible bike that they can turn into a lot of things and fiddle with, I think. Like not fiddle in it's hard to own way, but fiddle like, as in like you can get weird with this thing if you want.
Yeah, it's for the puzzlers out there.
Yeah.
I think this is like a good bike to experiment with as well. Like if you're like someone who's curious about what long chain stays are like versus short chain stays, if you want to try different reaches, different wheel sizes, you can do all of that on one frame. That just facilitates a lot of learning, and luckily it rides well. So it's like, though I don't think it was our favorite bike on the descents, it does a really good job, and those adjustments that they've baked into this thing allow it to like be a bunch of different things.
The shapeshifter.
The shapeshifter. That is the Crestline, done and dusted. If you want more e-bike content, head to the long episodes. We've got a whole lot of testing in there. If you want all the info, head to the written articles. And if you're sick of e-bikes, head over to Matt and Mike sitting on a sunny porch in Arkansas talking about their trail bikes. Until then, farewell.